All right, welcome back to Wilkins Workshop. Here we go. We're in Bambu Labs Studio. This is the slicer software that I use with my Bambu Labs printers. I'm going to create a new project. I have P1Ss in my classroom, and I also have X1Es in my classroom. So those are the two printers that I use. We're going to be using a P1S today to print out the cups that we created. So I've got a build plate here. You can add more build plates up at the top using this second little icon here to add a plate. You can add a bunch of plates. I forget what the max is, but haven't maxed it out yet. So although I'm about to on one of my projects, but that's for another story. You can add your STL files clicking the add button. And I'm going to go into my downloads. And these are the volume containers that I have just created. So we made a couple in Onshape. We made a couple in Fusion. We made one in Tinkercad. So showed three different ways to make these different containers. And I'm going to throw all of them onto a build plate. And we're going to 3D print all of them today. So you can actually do one at a time, or you can select all of them and open them all at once. We don't want to load them as a single object with multiple parts. That's for if you're doing parts that have multiple colors and you want to do multicolor printing, but we're going to say no. And it's going to put all of them there and we can move them about. So you can see that we created different ones. It's giving me some errors here because again, I'm outside the build volume on these and they're overlapping. So I brought them all in at once. You can see the one that we did in Tinkercad has the one cup logo on the side. You can do that in Onshape and in Fusion. I just didn't show that in the video. Again, pretty easy to do on both of those softwares. I'm going to go ahead and delete this build plate so it's not there. And some cool things you can do here is you can arrange them and it will auto arrange where they go. And you can also do an auto rotate. So it rotates to a proper orientation or the best orientation for you. And sometimes I don't like the arrangement that they pick. I'm actually going to move this and move these just like this. I don't want it to have that. There's some wording on my texture plate, and sometimes that wording will transfer onto the item if it's over there that far. So I'm just going to move it to about right. A couple things about the Slicer software. Again, if you've never used it, it's pretty intuitive. I have the advanced options open, but you can turn that off. So it's very basic. I'm using PLA as my printing material. So all of these are with my material, my filament PLA. If I wanted to change the material, I can add a new material and then select material 3. I can change the type that it is. And I can change some other settings about it. I could go in here and say, okay, this is high speed PLA and its color is, let's say, blue. And I can say, okay. And now I can go in and hit the number 3 and it will change it to that particular material. We're just going to use generic PLA. The color doesn't matter on this. It's if you have the AMS system, it's going to try to pick the color that's closest to it that's in the AMS, but I really don't use that. We don't, in my classroom, we just have single color spools on the back of our machines. So black is really hard to see the objects, so I recommend not picking black. Like in this, if you change, even if you're using black filament, I would not use black on my build plates. You just can't see, there's not a lot of detail there. So usually we pick gray, even if we're going to use black, just so you can see what's going on with some shadows. And I line up my parts just like this. I'm going to use not the strength setting. I can just do the standard 0.2 millimeter setting. If you want to be faster, you can do like the draft settings or the extra draft, which isn't going to hurt anything. Those are actually pretty good and they print pretty fast. I actually might do this 0.24 draft setting. The other thing is on strength. Wall loops at 2 is good. That's how many times it's going to print to the outside before it does the inner fill. Top shell layers and bottom shell layers, 3 is fine. And then with a Bambu printer, you don't want to use the grid infill. Because it moves so fast, the grid infill lays like a grid and then crosses back over it with the print head. And sometimes it can run into the material that's already been laid down and it's moving so fast it can knock your part off. So I use gyroid. I use 8%. in my classroom for the gyroid infill, and it's plenty strong for the parts and pieces that we're going to make. So those are the settings that I use. We don't need any support, even with this cone. Why is the cone not hollow? You know what? I wonder if I didn't shell that cone. I'm going to come right back with a new part here in just a minute. And with the magic of pause, we now have our correct cone. So there it is. What I had to do, I forgot to reshell my part after I made it in Fusion. So I just did a reshell of that particular piece, re-exported as an STL file, and there we go. We are ready. Once we do that, again, I'm not using supports, and if I hit slice plate, it'll print that that overhang just fine inside of there. So it's not going to need any support to create that, as it makes that particular part. That looks good. It doesn't give me any errors. So it's going to take a little over 4 hours, about 4.5 hours to print all 4 of these parts, which is pretty incredible. If you have a 3D printer and you were making these on a normal 3D printer, probably be at least twice that long for the size of these items. This is a 10-inch cube build volume for this particular item. I could go faster with this, but I'm going to stick with these settings. This looks good. I'm going to export it and I'm going to print it. So at this point, you can go to export. We use an SD card for our 3D printers. Some of them aren't connected to the network, but if you wanted to, you could go to print plate and you can print directly to the plate if your computer and your printer are connected on the same network. But they're great printers, and I highly recommend any of the Bambu lineup. I'm probably going to get some A1 minis will be my next set of purchases just because they're so inexpensive. They're $250 for an A1. They have a 7-inch cube build volume, which all of these parts would fit on there, and then you could essentially send one to each of the 4 printers, and now you're done in an hour and a half if you've got 4 printers. So anyway, if I had $1,000 to spend on 3D printers, I get 4 A1 minis. Very rarely do we need, to print things this big or bigger. It's nice to have them for sure. But again, go with what your budget allows. But that's how easy it is to get and to print. And like I said, if you have multiple printers, you can you get a lot of these student projects made within a day or two, so you can be testing. All right, have a great day. We will talk to you later.